So he's explaining that the tachlis ilui in avodah is not merely the first level of merkava, the first level of raising the merkava, the adam shalakise, to atzilus essentially. What's atzilus? Atzilus is a beautiful, integrated, reasonable, harmonious, divine, and all the superlatives world. That's not the tachlis. Although that's tikkun in general, zelamat tikkun, but the kavanah is not to move away from toihu, and in its stead tikkun, but in the Rebbe's immortal words, it is the toihu, bakerim the tikkun. So that means that's the avodah he speaks, which is of the ovis, and that is as follows. It's not simply a question of the midas being softened by Moishe because of an overarching agenda. In other words, Moishe says to the midas, I know it's better for you. I know you love your child, but if you love your child, then here's a cheshbon that on this occasion you have to discipline. So be malbish your chesed in gvura. So the seichel, the teacher, and the teacher is teaching the students, the classroom, that's the midas, and guiding them how to be effective, which is a wonderful thing. A harmonious classroom, an integrated human being, reasoned, and meichen de gadlus, everything that should be thought out, and with the cheshbon, the emotions don't get the better of him, they're controlled for the effectiveness of the given situation. And that's an avodah. It's not chas v'shalom discounting it, and halavai, right? We all agree we were holding by this level of maturity. But the tachlis avodah is even a higher avodah. Namely, as we know that the midas are really independent of seichel. They're rooted in the nefesh, deeper than seichel, in fact. So the tachlis avodah is that even without the softening of seichel, the midas mitzad atzmo, chesed and gvura are betachlis abitul, rooted in atzmos, in the essence, shenimtza b'bchinas bilti mitzias nimtza. Hashem is present, but not in the sense of presentness that all things exist. So what that means is that the mitzias of the midah is at the same time, at once, no mitzias. And how is it possible that the mitzias of the midah, b'chol tokvei, in all of its intensity, is not a mitzias? Because the midah is margish, that its whole identity is the shleimus of the nefesh. Is he here? Yeah. Is he here now? Yeah. Someone rang. I don't know who it was. So it could be he's trying to get in. That's who it is. The need for the carpets. You just spoke to him? I love it. Right. Yeah. They're doing the carpets downstairs. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, the winter carpets. Pardon? Yeah. I'm listening. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. It's key to get in. Okay. So here, again, the midas betokvei, Eisa Shalom bin Broimov, it was the vote of the Magid. Bechol sar shel sheleg, Gavriel sar shelesh. We're talking the midas as they are betokvam, and their full intensity. Sar implying a prince, an elevated state. So there, ve'in b'chabin says they don't extinguish each other. Why? Because they express. And even though it's pointed out yesterday, the whole thing here is to bring out the mile of office of Neshamas Yisrael, of Malachim. But here, I think the answer is, as I mentioned yesterday, it's Oiseh Shalom bin Broimov. This is not mitzad avoid of Gavriel and Michal. The Eibusha makes this peace, and he makes that peace because of our avoid lamata. At any rate, that was a suggested explanation. But the point is that the midas are betokvam at the same time completely bottled, because their toikif is the shleimus of the nefesh. The nefesh, its shleimus is to manifest itself in 10 midas, 7 midas, 10 general 10 midas. And so the midas express that all they are is the shleimus of all I am. It's not me, it's the nefesh expressing himself. Then the nefesh expressing itself is no less in gvura than in me. And if the nefesh is not unbridled to express itself in gvura, then I'm not a metzius, I'm compromised to the core of my being, not a metzius at all. If the nefesh is not getting its will, its way, then what am I? And that's not even the cheshbon, because what am I starts with I am, and the question is what I am. This is a hergish. This is again, what it means in Avodah, the shliach, whose whole metzius, as it ought to be, is the mishaleach, and therefore the other guy is a stira. That's the shleimus of the mishaleach. This sends all the shluchim everywhere, and the Neshamas Yisrael, in the Neshama Klolis, that sends the Neshamas everywhere to carry out the shlichus. All are equally nothing other than the expression of the mishaleach. And therefore, it's not Mesiras Nefesh to help the other person. It's the Chatchilah, not a Metzias. That's how it ought to be. This is the goal. So Adarab, in this case, in this scenario, as he says, the particular midas with all of its intensity, you were sent on the shlichus to use every last resource that you possess, squeezed out to the core of you in the shlichus. So it's b'chol ha'tokef. He's not walking on an eggshells. I mean, really, it's not just a token expression. It's the nefesh. It's shlichus. It's everything. So it's b'chol ha'tokef. Every resource and talent he expresses, holds nothing back, and at the same time, the other shliach, the other midah, is completely one with him, and therefore will help in any way he can when called upon, and even if not called upon, he'll seek out to help the other person's hatzlach and shlichus, because it's not his agenda, it's the mishalech, it's the nefesh, it's the etzem ha-nefesh or the neshama klolis, all of these parallel expressions of this truth. Right? We're clear. So that's the nekuda. That's the tachlis of it. It's now continuing that in more and more ICs here. Yeah? So what's the number 89 in the text? It's just footnote 89, that's what we're up to. Hainu should be Yosef, talking about Moishe, you want to close the door? Please. So talking about the Bechol Sar Shal Eish, Sar Shal Sheleg and Gavril Sar Shal Eish, should be Yosem Bim Reimov. We're talking here they are Bim Reimov. Shesham him betachlis ha'toikev. They're there and they're all their intensity. That they're called princes, they're Nasa Shalom B'neihem. This is similar to what the Alter brings, Chassidus brings, really explaining the bittul of all of creation to Hashem. And the analogy is the Ziv HaShemesh B'Shemesh, the ray of the sun within the sun. And the diak is that the ray of the sun within the sun is far more intense, far more betoikev than the ray of the sun as it projects away from the sun. And the paradox is its intensity, and yet it's completely indiscernible from the shemesh itself. You look at the body of the sun, you don't see any rays. You see the fiery mass of the sun. Are the rays there? They're certainly there. In the words of the Alter Rebbe, if they project away, then they're certainly there in the market. But if you look at the market, they're not discernible. All you see is the body of the sun. That's because in the market, they're betachlis habitl. What does that mean? That in the market, what you're looking at, the rays there, yes. Why aren't you seeing them as independent? Because there, the ray is nothing other than the expression of the sun, so you see the sun. It's a similar inyan. That dafke, when the market is revealed and you're connected to the market, this is the nekuda of real iskashrus. Dafke with real iskashrus, but the shliach is betoikev, nothing stands in his way. At the same time, tachlis habitl. And they all come from the same truth. The tkifus comes from because he's in touch with the etzem hanefesh, so he's surged. The power that runs through him is the etzem hanefesh. That's an infinite power. And because it's etzem hanefesh, that's why he's bottle. His power and his bittul are one and the same truth. And the beautiful halachic, I never encountered it before. I don't know if it's anywhere else. The halachic illustration of that, this profound idea expressed in halacha that we learned. That a person makes a neder on the condition that when he makes the neder is nullified. So what brings about the nullification of the neder? The making of the neder. It's not nullified till he declares it. He says, now I'm going to make a neder that I'm never going to eat bread. On the condition, when I make that neder, the neder is nullified. So when he declares, or I will eat bread, whatever it is, that neder, the declaration of the vow is what precipitates its own self-dissolvement. And there's no bittul without its expression. The expression invites, it's more than invites, it happens simultaneously. There's other illustrations in Hilchas Git, in Gita v'yoda boin ke'achad, that her hand to receive the get, which is some mitzias, as they are married, and the get comes simultaneously, and that separates it. But the neder mashal is much more precise. Akapanim, an example in Nigla for this truth. In the words of the Maimah continuing, Vahaino, I made it too cold, I'm sorry. Vahaino, by the number 89 should be Yosef, he said that yet. The next Vahaino. Because now we're talking about Pnimiyus Haratzin, which expresses the etzem. What Pnimiyus Haratzin is, Shalamayli Mechitzayin Yis Haratzin, Shesham Shaykh Shinuyim, as we learned at length, at the external level of Haratzin, the true Loy Adam, relatively speaking, is only Pnimiyus Haratzin. A relative level of Loy Adam is Chitzayin Yis Haratzin. But that would be the bittul of the malachim. That's beautiful atzilus. But pnimiyus haratzin is that the oiros the toihu are not tamed. But oiros the toihu, the intensity of a likos is revealed, uncompromised, and therefore giving rise to oiros the toihu, giving rise to this chaotic, conflicted world. And in this chaotic, conflicted world, it doesn't become something else. The world remains the world, but it reflects the emes achdus Hashem. V'adam shochem b'chinas atzmos. The kavanah is pnimiyus haratzin, meaning atzmos shulamayli mishinuyim, where there's no change at all. So mean pure oneness, pure absoluteness. V'nimna nimnois, and he is withheld from the withheld. Withheld means bligvul, and withheld from the withheld is the essence, higher than bligvul. B'chinas mahus, b'chinas loy mahus. Existence and non-existence. Can we be an example for that in our world, in the time of the Beis HaMikdash, is midah ve'ina min hamidah. In the Kodesh HaKadoshim, there was space and there was not space simultaneously. The ark, the Oren, took up space and did not take up space. And this is medayik, it's another example here. The Oren didn't take up space only because it had the specific measurements that it did. If the Oren was not 2.5 amos across, 1.5 deep and 1.5 high, and all of the other, then it would take up space like any other box would. L'havdalah $5. Dafka, because it's precision of midah, it's a similar example. That's why it didn't take up any space. Why? Because it's expression of etzem, the truth. Biyachad, at once, all at once. So therefore, rooted in the pnimiyus haratzin, rooted in this iskashus to the etzem, to the pnimiyus hakavana. In other words, not me at all, because I'm nothing other than the expression of him. Like the Rebbe told, right, the story of the Tavshin Yudalid, the chassid that said, make me a general. So the Rebbe smartness, what can I do? It's the conversation when he said, bring me into, remember? Spinjaltes. He said, Rebbe, bring me, enlist me in your army that you're making, foot soldier. The Rebbe said, what can I do this? If the Rebbe made you an officer, to which he countered, so make me a general. The Rebbe said, no, that's the officer is still somewhat of an agenda. He's climbing the ranks. He's a career. The general is nowhere to go. If you're at the general, it's the welfare of the state, and that's the end of it. And the foot soldier knows from nothing, and that's all he knows as well. So that's not chalosim. The two are wedged into a. So that's the nukudia that the general, which means the pnimis hakavana, should be nizgala where in the foot soldier. Bema says even in the officer. The chiddush is even in the officer. So why didn't the Rebbe say give it to him? Because it's not a thing that's given. Make me, it's not make me. Malachim, they wish to will confer this bittul to Malachim, but we have to work for it. So the Rebbe didn't say you can't be an officer and be at the same time in Tzira Gudas Chabad and so on. But that's your avodah. So from there, from this place rooted in the Pnimis HaKavana, what we're left with is this startling reality, which is withheld from the withheld. Namely, Shamidis Yeh b'toikev. On the one hand, he's with his full toikev. Each middah, the Yid. Yafa Pikein, Yeh b'oifen shel shalom v'iskalolus, is with his full intensity, and at the same time, complete bittul and shalom with the opposite middah. And that's the tachlis hakavana. He goes into say, yeah, we're clear. So now it's going to the two levels of the merkava, the standard level of the malachim, and then the pnimis hakavana, which we just described now. So this is the avodah of the merkava. Everybody has to place it. It's the last paragraph before a Zion. So the avodah of the merkava, the wheels there, the chariot, is to lift the Adam that it's upon who is upon the chair to the level of lo Adam. So there's two levels to that, to the level of chitzonius eratz and the level of pnimius eratz. Two levels of bittul. Remember, Adam has two meanings. Adam is begimatria. Well, actually, the word Adam also has two meanings. From Adama, earth, to Adam Elyon, similar to the one above. It's the same thing. Mahus and Leim Mahus. But he spoke about the gematria. The gematria of Adam is 45 is Ma. And Man means undefined. What? Defying definition. And Ma means something. Dovar Ma means in Hebrew something. So the first level of going into Bittul Loi Adam is as follows. First has to be the first level of bittul. First of all, the whole notion of bittul has to know has a chayin, and we don't come to this naturally. We are born selfish, and then we got to find out that there's a word called bittul. It's not just a word; it's a whole avodah. So there's a whole. It's big news. So he has to, you're a mensch, you're an Adam, you should know that Adam is a gematria Ma, which means Shemei Yosem Mahus Davar, even though Ma means you're something, Ma Melosh and Mahus, but you should know that Ma also means nothing. So Yesh Bagam Yina Bittul, you're an Adam, you should know that you have or need to aspire to and integrate and express Bittul. Ma Shibarusha Meli Mahus, which means not non-entity. So level one, so the first step happens is you got to soften the ego, soften the midas, grow up, mature, be driven by a higher agenda, and that's the influence of Moichin over midas. Moich shalat ala lev. We don't indulge in the emotion I'm feeling right now. There's got to be a higher agenda, and there's got to be skafi and control. an integration of midas and softening the whole persona. That's tchilas avodah. You can't go to the second avodah without the first one. That'll be disastrous, not even shaykh. The first thing has to be softening. And after this, the chalishus and the midas, now we're ready to engage them in their full intensity, which is the highest avodah. Shagam kasher midas and betoikev. We find this expression in many areas. In the Yidmin and Mitzrayim, the pasuk says, so he didn't take them derech eretz plishtim, kikorevu, even though it was very near, but it was a circuitous route. The same Nekuda did. Avodah plishtim means open-ended. It's really the avodah of the toikef, and open-ended, and movoy, an alleyway that's open-ended is called a movim of foolish. It means there's no boundary. It's a simcha. The context there is simcha, an unbounded simcha, with completely no hakbolas. So that's very attractive. Wow, But no, to do that immediately, that's avodah of the toikef hamida in avodah Hashem, that'll end up being destructive and be open to all kinds of corruptions. So first there has to be the avodah of the integrated avodah of we're describing now, seichel, meich, shalat alalev, and softening the midas and learning not to get our immediate way in terms of what the emotion at the moment right now desires. True, I'm not getting my way because there's a higher agenda here. It's all for my benefit. But we know what's right and still have a hard time with it. So that's all avodah. And after that, then give me the avodah of plishtim and kedusha, and then give me the avodah of the midah b'chol ha'toikev, because then nasi skalulas v'asholem, the person's been introduced to bittul, he's worked and struggled with it, so now we can bring that bittul to bear, even as each midah is fully resonant. Why? Because he's drawing the etzem nefesh, and the kivishim is battling muhusam lagamri, because here, on the one hand, b'chol ha'toikev, the midah, its full intensity, but it's completely in this battle from its mahus, meaning its agenda itself, in Yiddish, ois mahus in ganzen, completely not a sense of any separation from what? From the etzem hanefesh. And that's the kefiyah pirisha ala b'tevas ma, b'li mahus, but here we mean b'li mahus, not just in a relative sense, but absolutely, complete bittul. What have you found? What are you searching for? There's nothing to find. There's nothing there. Complete bittul. That's a tachlis avodah. To engage the intensity of the self fully, at the same time embrace the opposite, help the opposite, and feel incomplete without the success of the other guy, the other midah, the other approach, the other person. Yeah, Zayin or Bida Inyan. This Adam, and we're talking about it in Avodah now, but he's going to say it in the Oasis of the Maimon. We did so till now to make it understandable and apply it to ourselves. Let's see in the words of the Maimon. So this will serve to also crystallize it. The Inyan Merkava. So what's the Merkava? The vehicle. What does a vehicle do? The whole point of it is to take a person to a place where he could not get there on his own. So what is this bavli? This ha'adam. So what are we talking about? The Nefesh Habahamis is the vehicle that lifts the Nefesh Halikis to a place it couldn't get. Where does this happen? Where do we engage the Nefesh Habahamis? We're missing there's not a, there isn't another one up there. I will make more copies. There's no time. I have more, make more copies. Happy to do that. So Klalusa, who he ba'avedes hatfila. This happens in davening. Now, so he means, but literally, Pashat The Rebbe demands we should daven ba'avodah, at least on Shabbos, whenever it's possible. But it doesn't mean just daven. It means a life which is avodah tefillah. As in the Gemara says, "Halavai sheispal Adam kol hayom kol." The Gemara says in Brachos, "Halavai person davened all day," which this makes to mean it's a mindset of davening. What's the mindset of davening? The avodah with nefesh b'hamis. It's the war with the nefesh b'hamis. As it says in Zoya, what's davening? Shas loisa, shas krova. The time of davening is a time of battle, a time of war. What are you waging against? They're waging against the nefesh b'hamis, to channel it and make it a vehicle to lift the nefesh alikis. Namely, sh'osri chelis ha'izbonen those the nefesh alikis. Here, the nefesh alikis has to be reflecting, contemplating. They should be able to explain the truth of Elikus and what should be a true life. Even Nefesh Habahamis should want to do Torah mitzvahs. Nefesh Habahamis should also agree to a life of Yiddishkeit. Now, when Nefesh Habahamis agrees and is harnessed that lifts Nefesh Alikis, becomes the vehicle that lifts the Adam to Loi Adam. This is the idea of with all your heart, the two bases, with your two inclinations, even Nefesh Habahamis. So once Nefesh Habahamis, once humanity, once drives, as explaining length of Chassidus, the behemoth is offered on the altar, it's the fat, the pleasure capacity. Nefesh Habahamis understands. Who's the Nefesh Habahamis? Me. That the greatest Gishmak is in Yiddishkeit and living a life of Chassidish life, and the blood is poured on the Mizbeach. That's the passion. There's pleasure, and then there's passion. Passion not necessarily pleasurable. You can be passionately angry, but it means the drives, the intensity of the Nefesh Habahamis. When we understand and we pray that on our consciousness, that what's the emes? What's the enduring emes? Enduring emes is a likus. So why get caught up in externalities and in dvarim gashmim? At the end of the day, just feel guilty anyway, and it gets complicated, and there's wars. All the cheshbonos that the person needs to bring to bear to himself, to channel his consciousness, his human drives in elikus. So once that happens, it doesn't go into halarichas, because there's a whole chassidus explaining this, and that's a whole struggle. So Podoh shegam the nefesh alikis yitosef iloi. So Nefesh Habahamis adds to Nefesh alikis. Lagabe avodas Nefesh alikis mit atzma, and lifts the Nefesh alikis beyond its own avodah. The matter is as follows: the hine hadmidas Nefesh Habahamis, the emotions of Nefesh Habahamis and midas tivim, they're natural to it. Instinctual. This is what Nefesh Habahamis means by animal. Kishma, as its name indicates, Nefesh Habahamis. Shina behema, an animal walked on its midas. The animal has natural midas. That's the way it is. Shina behema midas tivium. They're not acquired attributes. They are natural attributes. And because they're natural, that's who I am. Shem betoik of their intents. Ve'ilo nefesh alikis, but nefesh alikis' midas are not natural to it. They're locked deep within a potential state in the etzem nefesh. They don't emerge. The nefesh alikis are ikir in yon inyan haseichel. The nefesh alikis, the main thing is it's seichel. It's an awe, it understands Hashem. It's dominated by its objective relationship with Hashem, which is where in its faculties of intellect. Which is why we learn in Tanya the nefesh alikis, its primary residence within the physical body is the brain, and the primary residence of Nefesh Habahamis is in the heart, reflecting their different natures. Nefesh Habahamis is an emotional fella. That's the natural human being, is an emotional being. That's how we're born. And the Nefesh Alikis is the cerebral, intellectual seeker of truth. Nefesh Alikis is not a mystery. The truth is Alikus. Shabbaifin shall bittul, and its natural state is bittul, because, as we said before, what should seichel be used for if not to connect to that which the mystery beyond me? And so that induces bittul. So that's the way they are independently. With the Nefesh Elikis first, stage one. Pearls the Nefesh Bahamis. You are a lover and you have all these passionate feelings. So here's where you're going to find a real fulfillment. You're going to have this in the Likus. So the Nefesh Bahamis now is excited about Yiddishkeit and so on. So this excitement is something it brings to bear to the world of the Nefesh Elikis that doesn't know this thing. As in the h'tשכ, again, h'tשכ, Nefesh Elikis rides, as it were, on the excitement of the Nefesh Bahamis. Like the pasuk says in Proverbs, there's many yields of produce by the force of the ox. A person will till his field, he will yield so much. He harnesses his ox, goes way beyond what he could ever accomplish. So that's the moshel of the Nefesh Bahamis, lifting the Nefesh Elikis. So this is level one. This is the loy Adam which reaches chitzonius harotz. It's not tachlis hakavana yet. Even though through the avoid of the Nefesh Elikis and Nefesh Bahamis, nasa ili that was Beker we just described now. How the excitement of the Nefesh Bahamis lifts the Nefesh Elikis, and he gets this virtue of the many yields, metaphorically. Still are a kol zeh magi'ah rak b'kochas hachitzoniim. We're still not engaging the essence of the koch as it's rooted in the etzem hanefesh. So it's external. Or even if we are going to speak a higher level, that we're touching the koiches as the pnimius, but it's the external dimension of the pnimius. It's still not the etzem. Still haven't touched the essence. We haven't brought to bear and unlocked the etzem haneshama. We have infused the midas of Nefesh Elikis with an excitement and an experience that Nefesh Elikis itself wouldn't have, but still not in touch with the etzem of HaNefesh. So the tachlis is that the Nefesh Elikis not simply ride on the excitement of the Nefesh Bahamis, but the Nefesh Bahamis and this whole avodah lead to the next stage of unlocking the Nefesh Elikis' essential midas, rooted in etzem HaNefesh. As we said before, that the midas have their own independent makar in the nefesh, higher than seichel. So even though we described before the Nefesh Elikis is primarily this intellectual creature, that's its overt identity, but in its essence, there's this powerful love and desire for God that doesn't even know that it has. And eventually, this is only unlocked through its engagement with the Nefesh Bahamis, which is the stage two, which we're talking about now, the takeoff of the mid itself. The hainu ha'avodah derusa deliber. This is the avodah of the true desire of the heart. The rotzen pnimi va'atzmi, the true essential, the chelik alakami mal mamish. That's the tachlis avodah. And then the midas of b'chol tokfam, as we described earlier, with all that intensity. And this connects a yid to the very pnimius above. I don't want to rush this further, so we'll continue this in greater detail, Be'ez Hashem, tomorrow.